Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LadyK Chat Podcast. I am your host, LadyK, and I'm here to tell you about tonight's episode, which is called Modern Day Slavery. Tonight, I focus on one of the country's biggest issues, and that is sex trafficking. I need you to tune in because I'm sure at one given point, we all say, how can I help? How can I help avoid this? Well, tonight, I am giving some steps on how you can help the children around you to avoid sex trafficking. I will see you in a little bit.
The following podcast is a LadyK Enterprises production. LadyK. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to LadyK Chat, a podcast that is designed for all women to become better versions of themselves, which is broadcast every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Various subjects will be speaked upon, such as relationships, personal development, health and wellness, wealth building, children, and so much more. She is a 2-time Amazon best-selling author, an international speaker, and life coach. She is Kalima, aka Lady K. And now for your host, Lady K.
Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning into this episode of Modern Day Slavery. And today I will be talking about sex trafficking here in the United States. I know a lot of people are under the impression that sex trafficking comes from another country, and even though we know this is a global issue, but just to bring some focal point on the United States, approximately 83% of sex trafficking victims are U.S. citizens. And I know that that's crazy, but it happens. And the most biggest thing, I found out this study in 2016, the University of Texas said approximately 79,000 children were victims of sex trafficking in Texas alone. That is a high number. And majority of these children, they experience abuse before trafficking. A lot of them are homeless, they're runaways, they have been in foster care, and they're vulnerable because they have been through some stuff. And it's pretty sad because the kids that's supposed to be taken care of, they're getting abused. And what's crazy is that a lot of the kids that's being trafficked is by someone who they know. It can be a caretaker. It can be someone that's a family member, or it can be someone that knows someone in the family. And yeah, it's just crazy. And here's the crazy thing. Instead of these kids being kidnapped, they were pretty much subject to emotional manipulation, physical violence, and psychological coercion. So what can we do to protect our children? First, we have to teach our children the red flags for abusive relationships so we can protect them from the most common tactics traffickers use. So I'm just going to go over a couple of stuff there so you can have an idea on what abusers and traffickers say to these young people. So first, it is grooming. And this is the period when the abuser is pretty much selling a dream. This is the honeymoon phase. They're making promises to fulfill needs and desires. And it can be something easy because this person can be a child. Now, depending on the age group, they're going to make certain things appealing. As we know, for the younger age group, it don't take that long because they don't know yet. So they can try to give them candy or try to say, oh, let's go to the park, or, something like that. So again, they're just grooming them to get them to feel comfortable so the child can just be more open to them, so it can just be an easy experience. And also, too, the trafficker, what they do, they find out what's missing in that child's life and apply the support, and then they slowly get to know them and just immediately start talking about the future and things like that. And this is how some of the times the kids get caught up, right? So the next thing I want to talk about is isolation. The abuser, the trafficker, position themselves as being the only person that can provide for the victim at that time. Whatever is material or an emotional need. And on top of that, they do everything from them to distance them from the support they may have. So that's why sometimes when you see, have you seen this child? Because sometimes they can't understand that this is not my child's routine. What happened, they was just easily groomed, and then the isolation. And then here comes the control. They will try to establish control over their life, where they can go, where they can communicate with. And a lot of times, to be honest, these sex traffickers, they do not have a life. They are controlled, and every move is watched by the trafficker. You understand what I'm saying? And if that child sometimes does not comply to what the trafficker or the person that's controlling them, then they start to punish them physically and emotionally. Then they're showing jealousy. And then this is how they get them groomed in. Because already, let's go back. They did the grooming. That's how they build up the trust. They did the isolation, take them away from their family, controlling, be mean to them when they feel like they're not listening. And this is how they're able to force you, because what they're doing, they're tearing you down. And in some kind of sick way, it's like they're preparing you. They're preparing you for the nastiness that comes after it. And I know it's so sad. It's so heartbreaking just to think about that. And it does something like I feel angry. I can imagine how that person feel. And, I want the best to come out that situation. What I mean by that, I hope and I just pray a lot of people can get out that situation, but we always know that it doesn't always turn into that way. So for those who are going through it, or even if you might know someone that might be going through it, watch out for the signs. And just like in any case, if they're giving you limited contact, or if you feel that something is off, I would say watch them. This is the person, I'm talking to the people that's able to identify something is wrong within either a child or maybe a young woman, because that young woman, she still is young. She still is a child. She has not developed yet. She is not an adult yet. She doesn't know. She only knows from her understanding. So I definitely want to push on you to pay attention if you ever see something funny, because at the end of the day, to stop sex trafficking, I know it's hard, but us as individuals, we have to pay attention to what goes around us. We never know if we can save someone's life. Now, I know this is a show, this is a movie, but one day I was watching The Shy, which is wonderful. I love that show, The Shy, the young girl Keisha, and she had kidnapped. And the crazy thing about it, she didn't know him. But however, he still forced himself on her at the end, and the neighborhood, I don't know what to call him, the neighborhood junkie, because he was that at one point. He was a drunk, and he also did a disservice in the community that a lot of people held against him. However, that person was able to save the young girl who got abducted, and she was pretty much trafficked, but it was still only one person. And even though that's just an example, some cases are more extreme than others, but that is something that we definitely just got to take key, and we have to pay attention, because we just never know who may need our help. Sometimes we as people, we're so caught up in what we're doing. But again, I just want to make sure that at the end of the day, we can all help a child, because that's what it's all about. So I talk about the isolation, and then I also talked about controlling, right? So as far as controlling, that tactic is used to brainwash, because once brainwashers come into the factor, they can tell the child, hey, your parents don't love you, They don't think about you no more. They stop looking for you, and then they actually start to believe it. So again, I think it is so powerful that we teach our kids at a early age, and there's different steps to it. Like right now, I have a 5-year-old son. So I teach my son good touch, bad touch, when is it great to talk to a stranger? When is it not? And that's another thing too. Sometimes we have to get our head about those cultural myths. Who is trafficked and who takes people? When listen, in all actuality, you gotta look out for everyone, because you just don't know. And it can be a person smiling in your face to take your child or take somebody else's child. So I also think another good way that we can also reach out to the children and speak about this topic is, in addition to going to the schools, we have to also target teen drugs and alcohol treatment centers, foster care programs, homeless youth shelters. This helps vulnerable and at-risk children know how to spot a potential abuser and to find safety. So ladies and gentlemen, I really hope that you appreciate this message tonight. I just really hope that we can actually take a stance and help slow down of this modern day slavery. In order to end child sex trafficking in the U.S., we have to know what we're looking for. So with that being said, I thank you for listening to me today. Continue to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at the LadyK Chat Podcast, and on my website at www.LadyKEnterprises.com, and you have a great night.